Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Gentlemen, listen, I'm going to tell those of you that are Muslims something that's important, and the non-Muslims can also learn from this if they choose to. So it's relevant to whoever listens. Gentlemen, I want you to think about life with Miss P. I can't remember who showed me the video of her, or showed us rather, but Life with Miss P is the name of the podcast. And Miss P herself uh, seems to be a traditional wife and very fair minded, nice to look at, and she and her husband are expecting. The issue here is that men are giving her credit, and they're saying to her that she is brave because she goes on and shows herself when there is an easy way for the trolls to troll her. Despite that, she goes online with a message like hers. That does take courage. And so I want her to get that credit she's earned. With no rancor in my heart, I'm still going to point this out for you guys to understand. If you remove that for which the trolls could easily troll her, she would not say the same things online. The reason that I know this is because, simply put, I want you to stop and think about the message that you would want a lady to preach if she's going to be online preaching, but also the way that you would want a wife to look. And you're going to notice that they just don't go together. You're going to realize that they just simply don't coincide. So when women sit up and say, well, we can't find a man that's successful and tall and is going to treat us right, one of the major issues is that they're already looking for a very slim selection among the men, a very small percentage. And then they want these men to treat them right. But here's where it gets even trickier. When these men treat them right, they lose interest. And Casey Zander talks about this a lot. A white fella that's red pill aware. So they're not going to find the men they want to treat them the way that they want while these men look the way they want, because one, it's very rare that men look the way they want. Number two, they don't want men to treat them the way that they want. That's the paradox in and of itself. If you are 0.4% of the men and you treat them the way that they want you to treat them, then they say, I got what I want. I don't want it anymore. You're no longer the 0.4% of men. You now at this point are 4% of men. And that's not good enough for them. We already know this. They're in a worse and more unending and permanent competition with each other than we men are ever in with each other. I don't want y'all to forget that for 1 second. Give her credit where it's due. Also understand what's not going to happen. I've stated before that Melanie King would have never, at any point, have preached what she preached, have preached what she preaches, and she doesn't even mean that much. But she wouldn't even so much as come out and say that and preach what she preaches if she were younger and did not get that plastic surgery. You could simply take Melanie King, give her the plastic surgery when she was younger, and she would never say what she now says. There are certain options that she still has, and there are options she does not have because of her age. Now, her age is not my problem, her beliefs are, and of course, her mask is. But understand what I'm getting at here. You must understand that you can, in fact, predict the behaviors of Western and Westernized women simply based on their looks. And if they don't look the part that you want them to look, then they still want to behave the way you don't want them to behave. That's the whole issue. Their personalities are so tied into their looks that if they look better, they will behave worse, guaranteed, hands down. That's the way that works. And sisters are worse about that than Becky. Becky's also bad about it. I know this from being around both of them. I've watched them. I've looked at them when they didn't realize I was. I've listened to them oftentimes when even more than I've looked at them. What I've seen is very bad, very unflattering. And I'm not capable, really, of forgiving them for that level of childishness. Muslim brothers have to realize that it's the same thing with the Muslim women. There was a difference at one point between, even in the West, your average Muslim woman and your average non Muslim woman. That difference is not only faded, but it has become the opposite difference. Small margin, but it's there. I want you Muslim men to realize that the Muslim women of the West and that want to be of the West are on a mission to get away with the same thing and even more than what they perceive the non Muslim women to have done wrong and still gotten away with. Trying to give as little to their men while fleecing their men and taking as much as possible. This is what it is. That's what they seek. Many of them will, in fact, find a Muslim man so that they can get married and their daddies won't trip. Then later, they have the kids, they get rid of the husband, they go live on their own, they drop their religion and then raise the kids as something else, and they make sure that the dad can't be around them, but he must pay child support. Good Muslim men in the UK and the US are getting married to Muslim women wherever these Muslim women are from. They're living in the West, though. Good Muslim men who mean well are marrying, and then later on they got a ex-Muslim ex-wife raising their kids as some other faith. Now, some of you are of another faith. You say, well, what's wrong with that? It's not personal. It's just the rules. For us, having been Muslim and then leaving is just the worst. Doesn't matter who it is. I do treat Dr. Omar Johnson different from how I treat Dr. Tiasan Johnson. Absolutely do, because Tiasan Johnson has retained a lot of behavioral integrity. So if my attitude towards him is, thank you for the benefit, I'll see what I can do to help and contribute. By the way, come back to Islam. You're welcome back. My attitude towards uh, plus Tia San Johnson, he left at a younger age. My attitude towards Dr. Omar Ungawa Fist in the Air Ifatunde Johnson is more like, dude, you're grifting. And not only that, but you said you Muslim, and then you recently admitted that you've been practicing another religion since 2011. But I didn't know you existed till 2012. And at that point, from then all the way up until 2024, you've been sitting up saying you Muslim. But you've been dropping little hints, and now you've given us the proof. While you're on this grift, while you're catering to the sisters, while you're telling black men that it's our fault when it's not. And I'm not going to mention the daughters for one reason. And that is that I believe what BGS has said, that he refused to even open that up because he wasn't trying to badmouth about the baby mamas. But he said he was trying to make a smarter decision in terms of marriage, and they wouldn't listen. And that right there is reason enough. If he told one, go ahead and breastfeed the baby, and she's like, no, okay, right there, we're done. You want to marry him, you're going to want him to take care of this, that, and the other, and be this provider, protector, problem solver. But when he wants to prevent a problem, you say no. That right there is the problem. Omar didn't have the option to marry a black woman and stay with her. That's what I want people to realize about that. Why do I get on him about the other stuff in life, but I don't get on him about that? Marrying a black woman was not an option. And this so-called diviner of Babalawo that met him in Philly did give him one good bit of advice. Finish the school before you get married because you'll run the wife off. But the problem is, see, what the Babalawo said was true. That's true. The wife would leave if he didn't finish the school first. But the issue was that that's not what she's supposed to do. If you start and you get that finish line going, you pass that finish line, Dr. Umar Ungawa Fist in the Air, Islam ain't black enough, Ooga Booga Johnson, then understand that you reach this finish line. Now, once that woman is there, any women that come into your life after that need to have reached finish lines of their own. Ain't no hypergamy. She brings something similar, or she takes a step back. You don't believe in Islam anyway. Get you some concubines. But you Muslim brethren that are still Muslim, of course, have to understand too that you got Muslim guys that are good Muslim men coming out these Western countries. Usually, these men have some kind of repentance story. Either the repentance when they became Muslim or repentance when they went from just inheriting it from their parents into taking it seriously on their own. You normally have one or the other. They're both repentant stories. They tie the knot, they get married, they're trying to do the right thing, they want to be chaste. And these women that they marry eventually do everything they're not supposed to do. They abuse, they gaslight, they cheat, they do all the stuff that Karen Sykes of the Happy Wife School tells us that women do to good men. She keeps on emphasizing these things that women do, and she keeps emphasizing that the victims are good men. She's telling you that women seek out good men to whom to play these games, to whom to do these things, to whom to deny marital sex, to gaslight, to lie about, to whom to express dissatisfaction no matter what these men do, to whom to ask that they keep doing all of these things, and eventually from whom to divorce because they're bored. They pick good men for these things. And the bad boy, the irresponsible joker, just gets their best. She's telling you no, and you're going on a few years and you ain't slept with her. She's screwing the pool boy, the personal trainer, somebody. Somebody asked me once if I thought that my ex, not in Africa, but if I thought my ex in the States played around, cheated. And I pretty much said I doubt it, but I would never tell her that. I admitted to somebody um that I would tell her if she were to say, "You think I cheated?" I'd be like, "I know you did. I don't have proof, but I know you did." What's the reason? The time that we weren't consummating the marriage, I'm not going to sit up here and make her think I'm naive enough to trust. I have other reasons to think she didn't do so, but I'm not going to sit up here and act like trust is one of them. I ain't that naive. I'm not that trusting. I'm a pessimist, and I'm usually right in my pessimism. I just happen to have other reasons and other evidences that she actually didn't. It has more to do with her schedule. But for many of you, if your wives have cut that off, which Karen Sykes has admitted that women will do to good men, and I'm telling you that Muslim wives will do to their good Muslim husbands if they're Western or even if they just want to be Western. I'm telling you that the best thing to do is to tell them. If you can't prove it, it's still to go up and say to them, listen, I'm not going to tell anybody that you cheated. I don't have proof. I'm telling you that it's over because I don't trust you anymore. Have you ever stopped to think? You hit the time, you put that you turn your arms and hands into a T and say, I stopped to think and I still don't trust you. Because it's not like there's something else I could have done that would have made everything different. You cut it off. There was nothing I could have done any differently. You were getting it somewhere else. And if you weren't, I'd still be stupid for believing it. So I don't trust you. We're done. And by the way, I'm not actually going to sign any divorce papers till I consummate another marriage with another woman. But in the meantime, we're in process and you're in limbo until I stick it in another woman. Don't play with me and don't do this to your next husband if you get one. And you just walk off. But this leads me to the next point for which I open this up, Muslim men. I've thought about this many years now. And now during Ramadan, I've thought about it even more. And I've hated to admit that I'm going to have to tell this to Muslim men as advice, but I do realize that this is far worse. What you're facing is far worse than what I've known. I told my audience, gentlemen, that Islam is the solution. I said that years ago and I meant it. I meant it then and I mean it now. Some of them will try it and they'll see for themselves. Some will not. But one of the things that does kind of stop a lot of guys in the red pill spaces and the black manosphere from seeing that it is a solution is that, frankly, despite the instructions we have for both men and women's behavior, Muslim women that are in the West or of the West or even just want to be will not follow those instructions. So their behavior is just as bad or worse than any other Western woman that's not Muslim. So I want you to know, gentlemen, the truth be told, this is sad as hell, but it's true. You are going to have to learn to be alone. There are rules that God put in place. Those rules were for our good, for the men and the women. Rules of chastity. You marry, concubinage, if it exists, it's allowed. It doesn't exist anymore. So that leaves marriage. But since that's the case, and polygyny is illegal in many countries, Muslim women that are familiar with these Western systems are just fresh out of control. They're not going to control themselves. You ain't going to control them, and the law ain't going to control them. So they're fresh out. They're off the leash, off the chain. I hate to call it a leash, I hate to call it a chain, but they are free from all restraints in their head. And what they think in their minds is that that should mean that they're free from the consequences of whatever they do. But that's not that's not true. But they're gonna find it out later on. However, in the meantime, they're pretty much just like, listen, this is what I'm not gonna do. I am not going to be nice. I'm not going to be good to you. I'm not going to treat you well. I'm going to treat you like crap. I'm going to disobey you. And I'm going to do it in the name of F the patriarchy. And then later, eventually, I'm going to not give you any, cheat on you, tell a judge you abused me, file for divorce, put you out the house while you still got to pay the bills, then eventually leave the religion altogether and raise your kids with your money to believe in something that you know ain't the solution. And I'm going to brag about it. That's what they're saying. Some of them had this plan years before they even announced any breakaway from Islam. Some of you are going to be able to migrate to places and parts of the world where you can find wives. And if you had to wait and work hard and go through a lot to get to those areas, you should marry too. Do not bust your butt, work hard, and go live somewhere in a jurisdiction where you're not allowed to marry more than one. I heard recently that in Morocco, you can't marry two. Don't go. Now, I knew that factually they stopped you anyway, but I recently heard that it's actually now encoded in the law. It's illegal. Don't go. It's not because of the Moroccan women. But if it's illegal to marry more than one, what you think they're going to start acting like? They can get jobs more easily than men because they do take less money. The country's hard to live in if you're not from there. It's hard to live in if you're from there. And then the women now know that you cannot marry more than one. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to act a mother cuss word fool. That's what they're going to do. It's a matter of time. So now Morocco's out. You're better off in South Africa because at least they allow you to marry more than one. And the first one ain't got nothing to say about the others. You don't take permission from one to marry another. You don't do it. If you ain't Muslim, you can have 9 wives. If you are, you can have up to 4. Better off going to the southern Philippines. So I'm gonna let you know that's what it is over there. But if you cannot escape, and many men, period, Muslim or not, are not going to be able to leave the West, at least not within a short time. And there will come a day when they won't let the last few remaining leave. Once there's so few men left of voting age that anything the men would vote for is automatically not on the table anymore, is not realistic, then the majority of adult voters, being women, are going to vote for women that themselves are going to legislate that for men to get passports and leave the country is going to require some woman's permission. And if a lot of these women start giving their male relatives permission to leave, then they'll start to require more. They're not going to let you actually leave because that would imply you have a choice. If they never get around to stopping the last few remaining men from leaving, if they can afford it, then that means that they've already succeeded in spreading misandry, not just feminism, but misandry with it into other countries to which you might want to go. That means they already got Thailand, not just Bangkok. That means they'll already have Malaysia, not just Kuala Lumpur. That means they already have the Philippines, not just Manila. That means they already got Indonesia, not just Jakarta. That's what that's going to mean. We already know Africa's going, at least its bigger cities. That's what you're facing. That's what you're looking at. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's exactly what's going on right now. So they're going to do all they can to create a situation in which there's no really healthy way for you to be with anyone, even a wife. And the Muslim women are in on it. That's the truth. And I'm telling you, gentlemen, that unfortunately that means that the solution is something that for you is something that's not a solution for me. So I'm not allowed to practice that, but I still got to tell you that that's something you must prepare yourself for and actually you'll have to do. And if you can leave, you leave. If you cannot, you don't. And until you can leave, you have to be ready to be alone for long stretches at a time, completely alone. It's not normal. It's not really healthy in the long term. It's just the lesser of different evils. That's all. You're going to have to be ready for that. I wish it wasn't the case, but you will be. You'll be doing a good bit of fasting. It won't be every day, I don't think, but you'll be doing a good bit of fasting. Now, one thing that does help with the libido while you're young, it's not something I would like for you to do, uh, but it still is kind of necessary. And that is this: while you're fasting, and even on days that you're not, and this is a good thing to do when you start to feel the dehydration and the hunger, you take an ice pack and you sit somewhere, but you hold the ice pack to your sack. Just hold it there. And this is a good thing to do when you're not, when you don't really miss, if you will, when let's say when you're not, when you don't really have that particular part of women on the mind. You do so, and that also what it does is it prolongs the effect. Fasting, even though it increases testosterone production, fasting does um, it dulls the libido. That is true. But in addition to that, you you put an ice pack on the sack at it, and that prolongs the effects. Um, I don't know for how long, and that depends on your metabolism, but it does prolong that particular effect. So even when you break the fast, you don't go straight from um, sunset to it's time to break the fast to now that you got a full stomach, um, you can't go out in public. It'll prolong that. So I'm a married man and I'm happily married, and I thank God for her. I'm not allowed to engage in that particular solution. But for those of you that don't have the option to marry someone that's worthwhile, they don't want you to find anybody. That's one thing I want you to understand. They only want you to be able to marry if it's going to be someone that's going to make you miserable. That's the first thing to realize. That's why they're all in agreement that if they're nice to look at, they're going to have a nasty, filthy, stank, funky attitude. That's by design. It's not a coincidence. It doesn't just work that way because the cute chicks can get away with it. They're of the mindset that, damn it, they're all going to. So that even the mid-level looks women will start acting a furthermucking fool. And eventually, it's already started, the barilla looking women will act a furthermucking fool. Ask for everything, offer nothing, and just vex you. And if you really want to know what they want to do to you and get away with, the two best sources to look at to find that out are actually two whites and one Latina. Olivia Alexa will tell you certain things they want to do and certain things they won't do. Casey Zander is a white guy. He'll tell you certain games that these broads like to play. And by the time you watch about 4 or 5 of his vids, you realize that no matter what you do, he doesn't come out and say this, but you'll realize that no matter what you do, it's wrong in the eyes of these women. And he ain't talking about sisters, he talking about wired women. And sisters are in competition with wired women, and Muslim women are in competition with non-Muslim women. And then you got Karen Sykes. She runs the YouTube channel Happy Wife School, and she's telling you what they want to do and what they will do if you're a good man. And she tells you that it's if you're a good man, they will do these things. So she's spitting the game out. And gentlemen, that's important for a reason. So you watch them and you learn what it is that they want to do, especially if you're trying to be a good man. Then continue on. Knowing that these are the things they want to do, you then realize that you have to prepare yourself by being by yourself. Now, they don't want you to know what I'm telling you about fasting and also prolonging that a particular effect of the fast with the ice pack to your sack. Um, about the time of numbness, I would say, or that the ice begins to melt is probably long enough. But they don't want you to know about these things because they want you to be miserable by yourself. And I guess you would be in a normal situation, but this ain't normal. You must also know the stress that coupled up men are experiencing. The problem is that that means you have to kind of be in some other people's business, but you may need to know that because they're going through it, they're catching it. And you will thank God you're not going through this stress. The unnecessary arguments, the consistent nagging that they're doing intentionally because it's nagging and they know it's wrong. That's why they nag. They're not nagging because there's really something eating them up. If you get rid of that one thing, they find another reason to nag. Karen Sykes will tell you that. They're nagging so that they can nag you, keep you unhappy. It's who they are. That's what the West does to them. So, if you Muslim brethren, you must understand that the solution now, unfortunately, if you are stuck in the West or even in another hostile environment like India, is to stay by yourself and learn to appreciate the lack of stress that that's going to bring. Also, you must remind yourself at many times that this is not your fault. Even if there was some way you could have impressed women to treat you better, you don't know what it is. We keep learning that this won't work and that won't work and that won't work. So that means how would you know if there is a way? So don't blame yourself. It ain't your fault. You could not have known. If there was a way, they would have done what they can to keep you from finding out. That's who they are. It's how they are. How could you blame yourself? So you must keep in mind and remember, gentlemen, it ain't your fault. You buy one of those dolls or robots, you lose your dignity and a good conscience. You fornicate, you're going to lose your dignity and your good conscience. I know. Now, as a Muslim, I did not, and I thank Allah for that. But as a non Muslim, I did. And I realized, you know what? I'm going to feel dirty no matter what. Don't fornicate, you feel dirty, and you feel like you're more susceptible to, you feel like you're susceptible to false accusations regarding other than women. You do, you still feel dirty. And now she has more grounds to give you a false accusation regarding herself as the victim. So either way it goes, it's like, you know what? Um, you feel dirty and you're unsafe, no matter what you do. So I know. And if you can get that from abstinence or fornication, then you get a doll or a robot you're going to feel even dirtier. Your conscience is going to bother you even more. You don't want that to hit you while you're praying. You're praying, all of a sudden you realize, I did that. So don't go that route. Don't do that. And then even, I mean, if you marry, it's a trap in the West and in certain parts of outside the West and in traditional areas. It's the same thing. You marry in India, it's the same doggone thing. Once you marry in India, you're on the hook for alimony until she marries someone else or one of you dies. You know what divorced women do in India? They don't get married. They just get a boyfriend on the side, and the ex husband has to keep on paying. Even if he remarries, he still has to pay the ex wife. And many women will be like, well, you got an ex wife, you're going to have to pay her. And if I was her, I wouldn't remarry. So you're going to always have to pay her. So you know what? I'll pass. I'm not marrying you either. So that happens a good bit. Yeah, India's got it bad. Bread is bad. It sucks out there, man. Women routinely hit men in India, and people want to fight the man if he does anything. China's bad. We got Passport OG to thank for that. So even now in traditional areas, I told y'all back in 2019 and 2020 and 2021, these broads are going to export misandry as best and as much as a possibly mother cuss word can. They will go into chat rooms and use whatever they can to export it. They know where you want to go, and they want to make sure they ruin those areas first. And as much as sisters will sit up and say, well, why you passport bros and SYSBN won't even go to Africa for that mess? They ain't American, they ain't Western. Why you ain't going over there? They know that that's where brothers were going. How do we know? Because they did what they had to do to spread that stuff to the major cities back home on the home continent. So when they acted like we weren't going, they were lying and they knew it. They weren't trying to get more of us to go because they thought we weren't going there, even though there weren't many of us that were. They were trying to get more of us to go there because they were having an easy time convincing those sisters over there in any major population centers to pick up feminism and misandry. That's what that was. They knew some of us were going. They knew more of us would go. They just wanted more of us to go and land there and find the same thing. So if you're Muslim, you got to know that really the best thing to do is to learn and just be by yourself. And don't feel any guilt about that because they sat up and they made the same decisions as the non-Muslim women. All of us, girl, all of us, sprinkle, are going to be on this BS. They made the same decisions as Shira 7, and she practices witchcraft. Now, no Muslim woman should be following her for that reason alone. And still, they're making decisions similar to her, listening to her. If not her, someone like her. Muslim women with the Quran to guide them, in which God said he was going to test people, men and women alike. And that poverty is going to be one of them tests. And fear and hunger are sitting there looking at these verses and they're saying, well, it's the man's job to make sure this never happens to me. God just sat there and promised you that it's going to happen to him and you. And you're going to sit up and say to God that that man better be able to shield you from what God decreed for you. You're going to sit there, look, God, if you could look in his face, you look him in his face and tell him to send to you a man that can override what God says. That's what these broads are on. How dumb can they be? And one other thing, gentlemen, as these Muslims are going this way, they're going about this business and they're taking off the hijabs and loosening them up and putting on bikinis with the hijabs out in public and all this stuff. As they are doing this, I want you to realize the following, gentlemen. I want you to realize that they are looking for men who give dawah or men who preach to go into their DMs to try to give them advice. Listen, sister, you don't need to do this. You don't need to show this to everybody. You don't need to, you can't mix the hijab with a bikini anyway. Why thirst trap in these photos? What are you doing? You ain't going to attract nothing but dirty dudes. They're looking for you to slide in their DMs. And then they're going to sit up and say, well, you in my DMs. Why don't you leave me alone? Lower your gaze if it's a problem. Anything to talk down on you. And that's if you slide in their DMs and you do have this thought, I'd like to marry her, but she needs to clean her act up first, they ain't gonna never marry you. If they clean their act up, they'll never marry you because you went in their DMs, even if what you said was nothing wrong. If you went into their DMs to give them advice and you really meant no harm, nor were you trying to marry them, you just wanted to give them advice and you didn't want to embarrass them in front of other people, guess what? They ain't going to listen to you anyway. Because even if they believe what you say, they're going to say, but he still went into my DMs to do it. I'm not going to assume that he did it for the right reason. He wants me to. Any man would. So I'm not going to listen to him. Even if I take this bikini off and put some clothes on and I don't take photographs like this no more, I'm not going to do it because he said that someone else has to come and tell me, not that ninja. They can't stand you. You could have all good intentions. They can't tolerate you. They hate you. They want your attention, but they hate you when you give it. They look down on you. And you sending them hard eyes emojis with the tongues out, or you sending them sincere advice. This is not how we do this. It's the same to them. You paid them attention because of what they did and what they did not wear, what they did wrong and what they didn't wear while they were doing wrong, and that they can't respect you. And it's over. And that's the end of that. And they'll turn around and try to doctor what you said and make a screenshot. While there really is a screenshot, they'll turn around and change the text. Your best bet is to send a woman. And if you feel like this lady needs advice, your best bet is to say, listen, call your sister or your aunt or somebody or a trusted lady relative of yours and say, look, you can just scroll through whatever platform I'm on and this pops up. No search, no warning labels, nothing. There it is. Can you, from your DM, send her some advice, please? Some of you guys are up here preaching, and that's good. But then you take it upon yourself to have these private DM conversations with ladies to give them advice, but they didn't ask you. And the way these ladies see it is that you're simply using the religion as the type of status symbol from which to talk to them and impress them into liking you. That's how they're going to view it. That's the way they're going to see that. There's nothing you can do once you're a man and you respond in any way to that. There's nothing you can do to advise them. It goes a lot further if men, upon seeing that that's what it is, continue to scroll past. Whether she looks good or not, and she's only going to show that which looks good, you continue to scroll past. While you're single, and that's going to do something to you. Eventually, what's going to wind up happening is that you go into age, and before you even get gray hairs and everything else, you're going to lose interest in even marrying, even if you can. And you're going to have more and more options as your interest dwindles. And the best thing to do at that point is to just go ahead and not do it. It's too late. You just the best thing to do at that point. Eventually, there's gonna come a time when the women are gonna come grab you. Listen, brother, I'm looking to get married. You just be like, this is how old I am. Okay, what's that got to do with anything? That's how old I am. I never got married. It's too late. That's when you tell him you should have. I mean, you're not wrong because you want to get married, sis. But if that's what you were looking to do, you should have done this when both of us were younger. And if you could not have done this when we were both younger, or you would not have stopped me when we were both younger, then I'm not your type and we still shouldn't get married. I shouldn't marry you. And don't say you shouldn't marry me. You phrase it as I shouldn't marry you. I'm not your type. If we had to wait until right now, then I shouldn't marry you. And she says, I didn't know you. I didn't know you existed at that age. Then your answer still needs to be, I didn't know you existed at that age either. However, did you try to marry someone that you did know existed when you were that age, and he was similar in age? Did you try then? Because if not, you waited until this age to try it. And see, I'm saying that because they're gonna start coming out the woodwork as more and more of them get homeless, washed up, and they ain't gonna be virgins. That's out. Wouldn't be able to come and seek you out if they were virgins. So they ain't gonna be virgins, even if they were not married. And they're gonna look at you like when you finally find that out or realize that, they're gonna look at you like, you should hide my sin. They'll probably even tell you, no, I am a virgin. Because if you were a virgin when you married, you may really not know that she wasn't. And they don't have to confess their sin, but the point is that it's still going to be unfair to you. It's a landmine at that point. It's a minefield, I should say. So the best thing to do, gentlemen, is to go ahead and just get yourselves ready for that. And if they don't come to get you out of that when you and they are young, then you stay that way. Unless and until you can get to a place where you can find traditional wives and you can marry two, three, or four. You may not want to, but you have to have the ability, because the ability is necessary even for traditional women to know how to behave like they can appreciate you. That's also necessary. That's absolutely necessary. You must um, you must insist on that being one of the places to which you're going to go if you're looking for someone, because otherwise they'll never be able to respect you. I shouldn't say never. It shouldn't be that way, but if you find a place where they can respect you, but you can't marry someone else, then one day it's going to be a place where they can't respect you, and that ain't your fault. It's theirs. I hope that what I've said is a benefit, and I wish it wasn't so depressing, and I wish I had better news, but I just don't. Muslims, um, at least in these major population centers of the world, to which we can easily get, are on a mission. They're on a mission to do exactly as much or more than the non-Muslim women and to get away with it, and at your expense. And most of them really don't even want to be Muslim, to be honest with you. And most of them feel like you deserve a bad deal, and they're dead set on being exactly that. And for those of you that want to ask me why it is that I was addressing certain things that were very common amongst non-Muslims, well, that's why. We already know that whatever other people of the book do wrong, most of us were going to follow them. Not the things they do right, but we already know from Hadith that most of what they do wrong, we were going to turn and follow. And that's exactly what it is. So if you're wondering why I was addressing largely what was going on between non-Muslims, there's your answer. That's always been my reason from the very beginning. And now I'm seeing that reason manifest itself. And my colleague from Canada who has an ex-wife that left Islam and is raising his two daughters as feminist Christians, and she's a loose woman bringing boyfriends over. To my homeboy from South Carolina and Destroy It, who got married, and she was a munakaba. She wore the face veil. And he left her for the right reason. He gave her one command and she disobeyed. And it was disrespectful as hell. And she left it. She left proof of her disobedience on the computer screen when she left for work just so he'd see it. She had to be a nigga about it. Neck rolling, eye rolling, finger snapping negress. I do what I want. You don't tell me nothing. And then he saw it and he said, this is what you're going to do? We're done. And now she's a non-Muslim drinking with an otherwise homeless man living with her, trying to raise his daughter as a non-Muslim. But from what I know, she's keen to listen to him. And then the list goes on. A man in the UK that I never met, but I know about his story. His lawyer told the story. He worked hard to make enough money for his wife to be a stay-at-home wife. Got married. She got bored, cheated, filed for divorce, said he was abusive, got him kicked out the house that he had to work hard to afford. Financially drained him because he had to find another place to live and pay twice the rent to live in one place, and attorneys to defend himself. Then pay out in the divorce, and she took the girls and custody and all that, and he's got to work twice as much to pay all this stuff, so he really couldn't win a custody case, and she's raising them now as non-Muslim feminist Christians. Got him crying. He's trying to figure out what the hell he did that was so bad that he deserves this. To an imam in the UK, an imam who got married to a woman, and he didn't know that she had 5 bodies when they got married. Some others knew, but he didn't know. Most of who knew were women. One of them happened to say this in a discussion to another woman in front of her brother. He found out. That's how I know. It was her brother that told me. Whole time the imam don't know. He been this good practicing Muslim, holding it in and being self-disciplined, only to marry a woman that's got 5 bodies before she was married. To another guy in the US, he married a divorcee. Found out later that she had actually fornicated after her first divorce. Another brother got married. And the funny thing was, this guy really didn't know. Uh, she she had an infection, one of those, and when he looked about that infection, found out that apparently there's so many people that have it, so many that have it, that he pretty much figured there's no you're not going to find someone that doesn't. I don't know what came of the situation later on, but I do remember him saying that from what he found out on one of those national health databases, apparently almost everybody has it. And I had to tell him, listen, bro, I'm a pessimist. And I frankly think that the only reason you even met her is because she has this. I was like, bro, you got to stop and ask yourself, if she didn't have this, would she be willing to marry you? And how can you tell? It's hard to know. But the way you can tell is look and see, women that don't have this. If you know they don't have it, look and see how they would treat you. I think he didn't marry her because he later came back and he said, you know what? When they don't have a major problem in their life, they're not even trying to get married. And I think he was talking about Muslim women. Like something major in their life has to be wrong for them to even consider it. They're poor, they're broke, they need help, they're single moms, they're sick, stuff like that. I didn't see him after that. But the stories go on, and some of these stories go back 2 decades. Some of them do. And now what we're finding out, gentlemen, is that this is much more common than what we think. Now I'm aware of one case in which a woman, Muslim, was abused. She was choked out. And I know because she sent me the screenshots in which the husband confessed and was apologizing for choking her unconscious. That's why I believed it. She sent the evidence to back that up. But you know what? Now she's left the religion, single mom, and dating a dude that ain't got no kids and probably ain't been able to find nobody most of his life. She's nicer about it, but she's doing what Minnie F. Baby talked about. And she ain't even a baddie. Yeah, it's bad, y'all. It's bad out there. And they're in cooperation with each other to make every selection bad, just like the non-Muslim women. And so your best bet, since fornication is not an option, you can't just become a retaliatory player and womanizer, or you gonna catch all the punishments in this life and in the next. Because God ain't gonna let you and me get away with none of that stuff. So since that's not an option, and marriage is pretty much a bigger trap for us than it is for anyone else, because a lot of married women are going to sit up and tell you, it's my right to not work. Then they cheat, get bored, take you to the non-Muslim courts, and they ain't going to marry you if you don't marry them in front of the state, so they can take every single thing. It's not even an option for you. Getting married to these Muslim women, a lot of you don't realize getting married to these Muslim women in a way that they can't take advantage of you is not an option. They're not going to agree to a non-state marriage. They're not going to agree to do any work so that if y'all do split, you're not on the hook for alimony. They're going to demand only those situations in which they can take maximum advantage of you, and they're going to do it because they can. And they're already starting off with ain't no prenups. We get married in front of the states, in front of the state government, and I ain't working because I don't have to. And if they do, it's going to be under the table. And then when they cheat, because when they file, they're gonna be cheating with somebody else. When they cheat and they giving somebody else them draws, you can tell them how bad it is in Islam, and they're gonna be like, "Well, where your four witnesses at? You can't prove it." And they're gonna take your butt to the court, knowing full well, and they will have planned this all the way from jump, and won't think nothing about it. That's who they are. That's how they are, and they bragging about it, and they proud of it. And they've literally left no other way for you to be safe except to stay by yourself. And so all you got to do is learn to pretty much reduce or lose the libido to where that becomes comfortable. And you ain't gonna have to do that forever. And eventually you're going to get to an age where you're going to look and you're going to say, well, now being single is the only way I know how to be. And I'm happy with that. I'm cool with that. I'm going to stay like that because I know how to be single. I don't need to be with nobody. Being single is easy. And that's going to be what you got. At that point, you will have reached the comfort level. And from there on, you coasting. And I'm not sitting up here preaching celibacy as a normal thing or as a normal Islamic solution. I'm preaching it as the lesser of all the evils available because these women are looking at what is not evil, which is a healthy, happy marriage. And they're saying that is off the table. We will not let you be happy. Absolutely not. If you're happy, then something's wrong. And that's why this is the case. And then you're going to have to remember, and you're going to have to take what I just told you and remind yourself, it ain't your fault. And when people question you, hey, man, you're 37, you ain't getting married. What's going on? It ain't my fault. That's what you're going to have to say. It ain't my fault. Eventually, dudes are going to start coming to you. Listen, I got a daughter looking for a husband. Why ain't you married? And you're going to say, wait, why is she still looking? Because you brothers won't get married. And that's when you start saying, okay, how old is she? This is the age. Great. How long ago did she start looking to get married? And that's going to tell you everything. And that's when you say to them, they're going to be like, she about your age. Now, mind you, by the time you really comfortable and you coasting, and you're used to being single, and the libido is greatly reduced anyway, by the time that happens, what you know what your age is going to be like. And these guys are going to come, these dads are going to come to you with their gray hair, and they're going to come to you with their daughters close to you in age. And so you're going to get this number that's not far from your age. And then you say, and how long ago did she start looking? Brother, why are you asking all these questions? Because if you don't answer them, that's going to tell me something. Because it's important. That's why. How long ago did she start looking? So he comes and tells you that his daughter is 42. She started looking when she was 38. You'd be like, okay, so she had to get to 38 years of age before she started looking. What does that tell you that she thinks about men, sir? There you go right there. So the question is not really why I'm not married. Nobody cared. All the years I wasn't married, no one gave a rat's behind. The real question is, why won't I marry your daughter? And with no hatred or love for her, because I don't know her, I'm telling you that this is one thing I do know. Took her to age 38 to start looking for a husband. She already thought men were nothing. That's why. What was wrong with 28, bruh? What was wrong with 18?
Now, I would tell you for the most part, age 18, pretty much none of these women are mature enough. Not in the West. Other places, maybe, but in the West, no, pretty much none of them are mature enough. So don't agree to marry someone that young. But I'm also going to tell you that you need to tell the dads this simply because they don't like it. I'm telling you, as a father of daughters that I love, some of these dads don't really love their daughters the right way. So tell them what they don't want to hear because that's what they deserve. 18? Well, I was 18 once. No, I was 20 once. I could have been married then. Okay, what about 20 when I was 22? Why wasn't she looking then? Now here I am. So here I am at 44 and she's 42. Bruh, that ship has sailed. Don't worry. She's strong, independent. She don't need no man. She gonna be all right. And walk off and leave them. Let these old ninjas know that they don't get to sit up here and start artificially limiting the good things available in something simply because they don't think it should be too good of a deal. They don't get to do that. Make them know that. I hope this helps. Thank you for listening. Sorry it took so long, as always. Black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, black, heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it in black, patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us here again on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.